Hello and welcome to the Legacy Crusaders YouTube channel. This is Benji, and today I'm doing another VOD review. I'm still playing DB, working at it a little bit, and I did happen to get paired up against Elijah Green, who happened to win the most recent YCS in Charlotte, North Carolina. They're not playing Prank Kid, they are playing a version of the base deck. I'm currently 37-12 in my matches. I think if you check my profile, I think it says I have 38 games played because I played like one last format and like 2 matches in singles, but this is my account. It's been the same account I've had for the last 8 years. Finally starting to like play a little bit. We're gonna try and just see if I could have played better. So yeah, let's see what happens as we play through my match. So I forget who wins the dice roll. I win the dice roll, and I believe I make him go first, which is, you know, always scary to do because I'm playing going second deck, and I don't really want my opponent to know that. So I prefer they win the dice roll. I also try to do good luck, have fun before the dice roll, so no one feels like they're doing it in a salty manner, whether, you know, after you've won or lost the dice roll. So I try to do it at the beginning. I did play this on my Mac, and I have some weird glitch on my Mac where it kind of freezes the mouse and the keyboard for a minute. So I had a couple of points in this game where I was a little nervous that I wasn't going to be able to respond to something. I won the dice roll. I made Elijah go first. I opened with Imagination, Imperm, Forbidden Droplet, Fusion Destiny, and Imagination. And the important part about this is that I have no monsters to use Forbidden Droplet with. So no matter what, if there are monsters I need to negate with Droplet, there's always a chance that I can't actually negate them. So it does come up into how I'm going to play out my turn. Elijah has Fusion Destiny, Water Enchantress of the Temple, Rocks Rose Dragon, and Water Enchantress of the Temple, and a Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. So draw phase, standby phase, main 1. He declares the Enchantress. I have no response. Grabs a Rite of Aramasir. Going to activate Rite. Going to go into the deck and activate Fateful Adventure. Do note that the Fateful has to go into a different zone than the Rite was in because it goes onto the field while Rite is on the field. I've seen a couple people activate it and place it in the same column. He summons the token in defense mode. It has 2,000 attack, 2,000 defense. I believe it is a fairy. Earth level 4. Just trying to make sure I know these cards. So he's going to activate Rite in hand to summon his Water Enchantress, and then activates the effect of Rite to search for the Dracoback, which is the bane of my existence because I'm so big on Mystic Mine. Going to activate the, what do you call this thing? Fateful Adventure to search the Wandering Griffin Rider, discarding the Dracoback, which then activates its effect to equip to the token. He's just using a shortcut. Then he activates the effect of Wandering Griffin Rider in hand to special summon himself because he controls the token. And normal summons the Ghost Ogre, and Link summons into Crystron Halqifibrax. Now, he didn't play any cards that tell me this is the base deck, so I assume he's kind of on the Prank Kid deck. But also, I don't think the Prank Kid deck plays Halqifibrax, but it could. I don't know. Maybe I could just not be familiar with it. So I'm going to activate Imperm, and he opts not to use the Griffin Rider to ensure that his Fibrax combo goes off. And if it did, I don't exactly know where he would have ended, but I was afraid to find out because at the moment there's one negate on the board and I have a response to that negate. I did forget something that's important, which comes up in a few minutes. So he's going to end his turn with the Fusion Destiny. And I believe he just passes turn on this, which makes sense. So I draw, standby main. I start by activating Imagination. I don't like to activate Vanishment first, because if I do and they let me resolve it to search, I get locked into Infernoids, and I wanted the option to use Fusion Destiny, so I wanted to try and use this as a last ditch resource. So activate Imagination, he activates Enforcer. Now I want to try and negate Enforcer so it stays on the field because it's an extra deck monster. The Halqifibrax can tag out into like a Shooting Riser Dragon or like a Formula Synchron depending on what people play, but the problem here, first of all, I forgot he was playing the Shooting Riser Dragon, which is going to come up. So he's on the Shooting Riser Dragon. So most people who summon Fibrax don't have anything to tag into. Or if they do, they send their extra deck monster to summon an extra deck monster. So I think I also make a different misplay in a moment. So he activates the Enforcer, the pop itself, and the Imagination, and activates the effect of Enforcer in the graveyard. Activate the second Imagination. He has no real reason to not activate Griffin Rider. So I activate Droplet, and I discard both cards. Now, the problem with this is I'm going to be negating the Halqifibrax. And by doing that, he can use its effect to summon a tuner synchro monster from the extra deck, so he can summon his what do you call it? Shooting Riser Dragon. And because it's negated on field, it'll resolve without effect, and it'll have no extra deck monster, and Imagination won't have anything to resolve against. So that's what's going to happen. I'm going to lose the game. Now, if I just sent one card, I obviously have to negate the Griffin Rider, but at least the Halqifibrax, if he did tag out, would summon the what do you call it? It would summon the Shooting Riser Dragon, but I'd still lose, because the Shooting Riser Dragon would then send a card to lower its level, and then he would synchro with the token. So I actually think there's nothing I can do to win this game. I'm not sure if there was a way to play around this differently, because if depending on what he plays in the extra deck, some people play Black Rose Dragon. Now later I find out he plays Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, which means he probably doesn't play regular Black Rose Dragon. It's possible he plays both. He asked me a strange question. He's like, what would you like to negate? Well, I discarded 2 cards, and this card only affects effect monsters, so I obviously can't target the token. So that was an odd question. So I said the 2 effect monsters. So he puts a counter on both of those. Then on res, he sends the Halqifibrax to summon, and then obviously I'm going to die, so I just concede, because next turn he just brings back the, what do you call it? The Destroyer, and just destroys me. So going into game 2, I opt to make him go first again, which is really bad. If you lose game 1 after making your opponent go first, they remember you made them go first, and then so not only does he get to remember that I made him go first, if I do win this game, he has incentive to make me go first in game 3. So going over our hands, I have Infinite Impermanence, Void Imagination, Infernoid Deviati, which is obviously not a good card to draw, Ghost Ogre and Snow Rapid, and Inferno Decatron. He has Token Collector. So he saw I was on Infernoid. I guess he assumed I might be playing the Brave Engine. I don't play it because I don't own it. I would like to play cards that I own or I'm likely to get. I'm probably not going to pick it up because I don't know what the ban list is going to do to it, and I haven't gotten it already at this point. I feel like time value of money says I'm losing value on if I were to get it late, so I don't really want to get it that bad. He's got Pot of Prosperity, Rite of Aramasir, Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, and Wandering Griffin Rider. So he's going to start with Rite. I have no response for Rite. He chains the Griffin Rider. This way, it'll hit the board. I'm trying to think of why he would do this. I guess so that the moment this resolves, there's a negate on board. So let's look what happens here. So Rider hits the board, token hits the board, and then Fateful hits the board. He then activates the effect of Fateful to search a Water Enchantress, and then I think he discards the Token Collector. It would make the most sense. Summon the he's going to summon the Water Enchantress, and then I think summon the Ghost Ogre and try and do the Synchro Summon again. And I'm going to make the exact same play, imperm the Halqifibrax. He seems to not really care about that. I'm not sure what he prefers to go into. So he's going to use Water Enchantress and add a Rite. So he has his token card for next turn, if I opt the token. He activates Pot of Prosperity. By the way, in all this time, he had the opportunity to use Fateful to add the equipment spell when he summoned the Enchantress, but he opted not to. Now, I'm not sure why. I assume he wants me to not know if he's still playing it. Like if I'm playing a card like Mystic Mine, sometimes I might think that my cards will stick, or so, but he's also putting himself in a position where he could draw it off where it comes up here, and then I know it's in the deck anyway, so not sure that makes a difference. He might have wanted to get it out of the deck to have better shots on his draws. So he takes Fusion Destiny and then puts the rest of the cards back on the bottom of the deck. So I should know he has Rite and Fusion Destiny in hand. He activates Fusion Destiny and summons Enforcer. And he opts not to search off of Fateful again. So I know he doesn't have Draco back, and there's a chance he doesn't have it in. So I'm going to start with Decatron. He's going to activate Halqifibrax, which I don't have a response to. He sends Shooting Riser. I have to resolve Decatron, so I send Sightsmoss. I think there was one other thing that was kind of important here. Thinking on what it was. Oh yeah, I think when he activated Prosperity, I might have given the OK before he banished all 6 of his cards. Not that I had a response, but I should really not be giving the thumbs up symbol before my opponent has finished banishing their cards, because they can choose, oh, well, if I'm going to get ashed anyway, I might as well keep more cards in the Asher deck. He did 6 regardless, so it might not have mattered. So he says Chainlink 1 Riser, Chainlink 2 Fateful. So he's going to search the card now, so the card's in there now. I guess this was his way of making sure the Riser didn't get hand trapped, but he could have prevented the Fibrax from getting ashed. Who knows on why he waited till now to do it. I can only assume he had a bit of a reason to do that. I guess because he has right in his hand now, if I out the adventure, then he won't be able to gain access to the Draco back later. So he at the very least wants to do it before I out the board, which makes sense, but he could have just done it earlier. I mean, how does my play get affected if I know he has Draco back? Will I not activate a floodgate? I mean, if I have floodgates, I'm going to play them because I have floodgates. So I don't see the point of holding it in the deck, which is something I'm a little confused by. I am curious. We're going to continue. He's going to add Draco back. And he foolishes Fairy Tale Snow. So this thing is now level 3. It is a synchro tuner. He can synchro either with the Griffin Rider into a what's the name of that Yu-Gi-Oh card? Baron de Fleur, or he can summon a level 7 synchro. Let's just take a look at what he banished off of Prosperity, because I didn't actually check. His Dark Charmer, his Light Charmer, his Celine, so his access code line, I guess he figured he should turn off since he used the Halqifibrax already. Striker Dragon, interesting. I guess the Rose Dragons might need to link into it at some point. Not quite sure how that would work. I assume that's probably a fiber line where if you summon the Rox Rose, normal Rox Rose, search Basil Rose Shoot, go into Striker Dragon, then use Basil Rose Shoot to summon the Rox Rose, and then you have a tuner. I think Rox Rose is a tuner. Not sure. Link Spider and Verte Anaconda. So he prosperitied into the Fusion Destiny, so I guess he opted. So there's a chance he was going to not have access to his Enforcer. Okay. Interesting. All right, let's continue. He doesn't have a response, so I go into Almirage. And part of this is I want to have access to the Sites Moss, but I also don't want it to get destroyed by the... I don't want it to get destroyed by the Enforcer. So if I summon Sites Moss, he activates this. I can chain Almirage, and I can Ogre the Griffin Rider. So I'm going to summon Sites Moss. I opt to keep the Deviati, although it might have been more effective to keep the Sajet, because I'm likely to summon the Sajet, because this takes too many monsters. But between the Sites Moss and the Deviati, I figured I'd rather have access to better monsters, rather than just 2 of the small ones, even though I'm more likely to summon 2 of the small ones. But, I mean, if I'm going to resolve the imagination, I'll be summoning whichever ones I want anyway. So I don't think it mattered. I already normal summoned. So I declare battle to make him think in main. So that's what happens. I press the battle phase button. He says, think in main. So I'm like, that's fine. I'll go back. So I go back to main 1. He activates Enforcer. I chain Almirage. He activates Griffin Rider. I chain Ogre. So this is like the surprise play. So obviously wasn't fully aware that that was going to happen. So thinking about what he wants to do here, because he still has access to Riser into Baron, which I think is the better play. Because this guy's going to get ogred anyway. I guess the token just would sit here with no real purpose. I guess it'd be a blocker. He also has to destroy a card in his field with the Enforcer. He can destroy itself at this point. So he activates Riser, and I believe he goes into... let's see. Black Rose Moonlight. So if he went into... so if he actually goes into... What do you call it? Baron. I can't get over Baron with Sites Moss. I also can't attack into anything because it would be high attack. But in this case, he summons a monster that can't remove itself from the field and is forced to use its effect immediately. So I guess this is just his way of having a level 7 synchro in the deck. So I think the misplay on his part in this case is that he should have went into Baron, which I assume is in his extra deck if he's playing a Halqifibrax engine. So he resolves the Enforcer, and we're clarifying that Moonlight's bouncing my card. Yeah. So we're discussing what's happening. He's pointing at Sites Moss. I'm like, oh, it's Almirage. And then he's like, oh yeah, I'm bouncing with Moonlight. I forgot Moonlight bounces on summon, so... so I activate the Tribute and banish. I banish Fairy Tale Snow, because he can't activate it this turn. I might as well get that out of the way. I drew Imagination, so I'm going to use it. And because he went into Moonlight and not like Baron, I'm going to be able to summon Tiara. So I send 6. Use Tiara to pop the board. And then he's waiting for me. So I'm just about every player I've played against when I've activated the card, I make sure to tell them what Tiara does in case they aren't familiar with it. So he says he knows how Tiara works when I was telling him what it does, just in case. Not trying to imply that he doesn't know or that he didn't read the card. I just do it to make sure people know what's going on. So I go first. I sent Entes Tierra. He sends a Verte. So he plays 2 Vertes and an Access Code, and he plays the Ready Rose. So he could have also summoned Ready Rose against me. Just to clarify what Ready Rose does. If this card synchro summon, you can banish all cards in the graveyard. And if it was summoned using Black Rose or a plant synchro, Moonlight's not a plant synchro, just throwing that out there. You can destroy all cards on the field, so that wouldn't have been happening. When your opponent activates a card or effect that would destroy a card on the field, you can tribute this card and negate the activation if you do summon Black Rose from the extra deck. So he might be playing this instead of Baron. I'm not sure. He's only got 2 cards left in the extra deck. It'd be nice to know what they are. If we take note of what he has at the moment, we can double check with those later. So just taking a quick look. Because it doesn't look like he's using a real fiber line, and if he was, it would be what? Cupid Pitch, maybe Herald of the Arclight, and maybe Baron. I would guess there's a Baron in here. Let's continue. So I mill my 3 email history. I wasn't sure if he'd make me do my mill before he sent his extra deck cards, but he didn't. So at the very least, I sent my extra deck. He sent his extra deck. I sent my mills. He sent his mills. So I used my test to pop both of his cards, even though I didn't get to like state that. He just got ahead of me. So I link off for Gravity Controller, and I have enough Infernoids to link it to an OTK. And I should know his cards in hand, so I shouldn't be playing as slow as I did. I played slightly slow. I'm not really sure how slow. So let's see. I summoned both of these at 13 minutes. Let's just see how long it takes me to do the rest of the plays. So I link these off. Again, I summoned the Sites Moss at 13:16. So I summon those. Okay, so I summon pretty quickly, enough guys to go for game. So I don't keep him waiting too long. It takes about a minute to summon all the monsters. I don't remember if I remembered what was in his hand. I mean, I should know that he searched the right and that he's just searched the Draco back. So I win game 2. Going into game 3, and by the way, I didn't side deck in any of the games because I actually didn't think there was a card in my side deck that made sense to side, with the exception of knowing for sure I'd be going first in game 3. And I did not know for sure I was going first in game 3. But sure enough, he makes me go first in game 3. So that's what's happening here. So going first, I open Petrula, Banishment, so at least I opened my going first card. Celestial, Imagination, and Impermanence. And he opens Valor, Red Rose, Dasher, Lancia, and Draco back. So he didn't open particularly well. He opened like his 2 bricks. He has a card that's not exactly a starter. This one does not make a full play by itself. It doesn't have a way to summon a monster. But I opened my going first play. I don't really play a lot of good cards for going first. If I didn't open Banishment, odds are I'd be passing. So I activate Banishment, and then he gives me the thumbs up. He eventually makes a comment that's kind of, I'm not sure if it was meant to be salty or not. I'm just going to comment on it when it comes up. So he says, seems about right. 3 fusion, 3 defensive, going second. Not sure exactly what that means. Vanishment going first. So I opened Vanishment going first. I also opened another 2 going second cards, so it's not like I opened nothing. So he goes, he draws Fusion Destiny. He doesn't really have a play, so he just draw phase, standby phase. So he's going back and forth. I say main 1 is good, so he gets the opportunity to activate Fusion Destiny. And I'm trying to decide, I make what I would assume is a misplay. I probably should Void Feast before letting this resolve. Reason for that is I get all 3 Infernoids on field, and then the Enforcer would hit the field, and then when he activates Enforcer, I would at least be able to chain both Decatrons. So that's a misplay on my part. I let him summon this first, and then I say on res, but he's turn player. He's correct. He's going to make a comment that he has first priority, and I'm not really trying to get ahead of him. I just figured if he wanted to do that on res, it's not like my card was unknown, you know? So I ask him, he says he's going to activate. So I'm trying to so he didn't clarify if he wanted to use it first. He just said that he has priority. So I put the card back on the board. So I ask him to clarify if he's using it first or second. So he's activating Enforcer on summon, which is fine. Then I'll chain feast. So the reason this works out worse for me is what's going to happen is the 2 Decatrons are going to hit the board. The Enforcer is going to destroy a Decatron, which means it's not on the field at the resolution of the chain to activate its effect. So I have 1 less Infernoid in graveyard. So he's gonna activate Destroyer. I'm gonna activate Decatron. Technically, let's see, it's his turn first. So yeah, that's the way the chain should go. I'm gonna send a Deviati. I have a habit of putting them on the board to make sure my opponent knows what cards are what. Then he summons the Roxrose to threaten the Decatron. So I just use the Jet to tribute and banish the Enforcer. Because all he has in graveyard currently are Destroyer cards. I mean, Destiny Hero cards. So I go for Enforcer. Should he have done that? Probably. Because odds are I was going to just do it next turn anyway. Although next turn he had the Lancia, but I could also negate the Lancia. So I guess he probably couldn't really force it out with the cards he had during the next turn. Because a Lancia in response to the Infernoids is pretty crazy. Good thing you can't Lancia on his own turn. So I think that's the end of his turn because he doesn't have any other plays. I draw Mystic Mine. He activates Lancia. And because I drew Mystic Mine, I'm like, well, let's just banish the... oh, I didn't banish Celestial. I thought I was going to banish Celestial and then let him revive his guy and then activate Mystic Mine. So I would call this a misplay on my part. Because I could have just made sure I had 0 monsters on board. I mean, it is my turn. And now I can banish on his turn. Would it make a difference? Considering I just have to immediately shotgun this right now, I probably should have done it last turn, just to be safe. I set Imperm, which... Oh, that was the other thing. If I would have got it off the field, then if he destroys mine, I have Imperm come online afterwards, so I wouldn't have had to set the Imperm. So if I would have made that play sooner, I wouldn't have had to shotgun that and rush. Standby main, he activates Fateful. Good news, he can't activate monster effects, so he can dump enchantresses, but he can't actually search the token card. And he links off for Dark. So he makes an extra deck monster against Infernoid that he didn't need to make. So I assume that his play is that he gets the search card when I destroy it. Now, I guess that would be a Rose Dragon or perhaps a Magician's Soul or something. But that's still turning on the fusion spell if I'm holding it, which in this case I was. So I just get to like blow him out of the water here. So I fuse using 6. So I summon Tiara, and normally I would use Tiara to try and pop the Mystic Mine so I can push for game. But he's going to Veiler me, and I don't really have a play around the Veiler. So I link into Gravity Controller, and Gravity Controller specifically says it cannot be destroyed by battle with monsters in the main monster zone. So I can crash into the Dark Charmer and take 850 and just get it off the board. So that's what I'm going to do. I forget if I should... Oh, I don't know if he had the Draco back because he opened it. So he draws Basil Rose Shoot. He's just going to keep dumping enchantresses. And I top deck Dasher. So now I have both Destiny Heroes, which is, of course, amazing. So I go for Deviati to clear his back row and my back row. And he activates the Basil Rose Shoot. And he summons the Red Rose Dragon. The goal was for me to have a way to turn off Mystic Mine. I'm just going to like link off with Celestial and then try and OTK. That's like the thought process here. So just trying to double check what happened. You know what? He clicked Activate Fateful for some reason. And then I thought he clicked Activate Red Rose Dragon, which made me think that Red Rose Dragon was Roxrose Dragon. So I try to activate Deviati to negate Roxrose Dragon. Then he acts confused. But the truth is, I was just paying... I saw him activate a card, and none of his cards made sense to activate, so I assumed it was this one, so I assumed it was the wrong one. So he's acting like I'm crazy because I'm trying to Deviati something. But he activated the Fateful when there was nothing to activate it for. So that's what happened there. So I normal the Celestial, go into Hida. He didn't have anything in the graveyard. I just wanted to link into something I can link into. It was that or Verte. And I just got rid of... my, what do you call it? My Destroyer piece, so I went with Hida, which doesn't really do anything in particular here. So it's just bigger. So I summoned Sitesmoss and Deviati. So just to count summons, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is my 5th summon. 1 is a monster negate. So possibly could have tried to do this with less. Since I can't go for game anyway, because let's just count the noids I have. I have 1, 2 in grave and 1 in my hand. What am I going to link for and go for game with? I guess I could go for game. I can link these into Equimax and then link this into access code, pop the board, and summon a Tondel. But I feel like I'm in a good spot, so I just attempt to attack with Sightsmoss and then banish the Dark Charmer. Now, I did forget that he's already dumped the Water Enchantresses to the graveyard, so I forget these are in there. So that kind of affects like the line of play. Like I should make different plays knowing this. So he activates right, and I decide not to let him bother getting into that, so I activate the Deviati. I'll assume it says you can only use it once per turn, otherwise you could just use the second one. He doesn't do anything, so because I'll be able to draw 2 cards this time, so I tribute the Sightsmoss for the Dasher. Going into Equimax, he activates the Griffin Rider to put out a Defender. The question is, he has to do it during the main phase. Should he do this now? I mean, if he waits for Deviati, I might negate it, but then what am I going to do with it? I'm not quite sure what my line's going to be. I want to empty my hand, so I summon the Atondel from my hand by banishing the 2 Deviatis engraved, leaving me with only 2 Sightsmoss engraved, so I can currently link up the access code and summon one and go for game at this point in time. I still don't know what the card in his hand is. I set Terraforming trying to draw some cards just to see if I could improve my state. And I get the Ogre, which doesn't technically do anything here. I've already normal summoned. So I just link these up into access code. Targeting Equimax, use that to pop the Griffin Rider, and then just summon a Tondel, thinking maybe he's got a Lancia, but he would have used it. And we just go for game. He offers a rematch. I said another time, and he left. So, yep. So I did win this match. I do believe I could have played slightly better at points. I think he could have as well, but I don't know what's in his extra deck to know if he could have. But he played very well for sure in game 1. Game 2, I'm just not sure if the Synchro Dragon made the most sense, and I definitely could have fired off my my feast earlier because I knew the Enforcer. Did he pop something with Enforcer? Well, the Enforcer was coming. He started his turn with the main phase with the Fusion Destiny, so I could have maybe prevented. I could have gotten my guy to get another Infernoid in the graveyard, so that would have been obviously an improvement. So that's about all I could have done better. I guess I could have pushed for game earlier, but I didn't know what his card was. He obviously didn't draw very well. And I opened my going first card in the deck. You know, excited to play against him again. I was just kind of, I had already played like 3 games in a row before this. And when he was asking for a rematch, I'm like, oh, I just got this win. Want to savor in it for a minute. But that's going to be that match. And there'll be more of these in the future. You know, leave comments in the down below if you have any criticisms of my gameplay. And I'll post the deck list link down below, I guess. And I'll see y'all next time.